Rev up your engines!
Well, with the price of gas being this high, some people have gone insane. There is a woman in Allentown, Pennsylvania. She has video of it. A man drilled a hole in her gas tank and got a bucket and stole gasoline by drilling a hole in her gas tank. Numero uno, could have had an explosion and blown everything up, including himself. And what an idiot. The reason that guy's doing it is because when I was young, gas tanks had a gas cap, that was it. You could stick a hose down and you could siphon gas out, right? Well, they got anti-siphoning blockers in most cars now. You stick a tube in, it hits the blocker and it doesn't go any further. The blocker's got perforations so you can fill it up with gasoline, but you can't stick a tube in and suck it out. So this guy just thought, heck, I'll drill a hole. What an idiot. He could have blown himself up. He could have blown up the neighborhood, started a giant fire. But people have gotten that bad with the price of gasoline that this guy actually drilled a hole, gas tank, of course, ruining the gas tank. Now she's going to need a gas tank. That costs anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000, depending on your vehicle. It's just kind of insanity what people are going to for stealing stuff now. It's like stealing a catalytic converter. If somebody steals a catalytic converter, I don't know, they might get $20, $30 from a junkyard or something, but some of those catalytic converters cost $1,500, $1,800, and then you got to install them. You got to fork out $1,500. I had that happen to my sister-in-law with the Toyota Prius because they have big catalytic converters that are worth a lot of money. She had it stolen. Her insurance company forked out like $2,200 for that, and the guy probably got $20, $30 for it in the junkyard in Houston. So, you know, watch out, park your car in an area where everybody can see it, and hope people don't come by and start drilling holes in your gas tank. Well, it says, I need advice on my Chrysler Longevity. Don't ask me why, but I got a 2014 Chrysler 200 for basically nothing. The 4-speed automatic transmission. It has 120,000 miles. Now, what can I do to make it last? Good thing you got it for almost nothing. Realize the Chrysler 200, they don't make them anymore. They were piles of junk. They were basically mainly Italian Fiat technology, Fiat engine transmission technology, right? And they're garbage. But you got it for almost nothing. So, it's got 120,000 miles on it. Now, here's the problem you got with that. If you got records, let's say the transmission fluid's been changed a couple times. Definitely change the transmission fluid now. But if there's no records, don't touch it. Because if you change it now, it might start to slip. Now, you said it's not burning oil yet. Change the engine oil filter every 5,000 miles and use full synthetic and a full synthetic high-quality oil filter. And take care of it as much as you can. And don't drive like a maniac. You can drive 70 miles an hour when the speed limit's 70, but don't go 0 to 70 as fast as you can all the time, or you'll burn out the engine and or transmission. But you got it for nothing, so what the heck? Or almost nothing, whatever that means. Joe Cool says, I can't clear the DTCs with my new scan tool. I tried to erase the codes in my 2004 Forester. It won't let me. What can I do? If you have an extremely hard live code, you can't get rid of them. It'll try to erase them, but then when you start the car, they'll immediately be there because it's a hard problem. As soon as you start the car, if you got a really bad sensor or a wire that's broke, it'll know it immediately and the code will stay on. It won't go away. Now, if you do want to erase your codes, here's one way that you can often try just to see if you can erase them. Disconnect the battery terminal. Then get 1 ohm 10 watt resistor. It costs you $1. Connect the negative and positive battery terminals together with this. They're not on the battery anymore. They're naked by themselves off the battery, and connect them to the resistor. There's a wire on each side. Connect them for about 10 minutes. That will set the computer back to its original factory setting. Then that should reset it all. If it doesn't, you got some kind of computer wiring problem. It's a Subaru. As they age, they can sometimes have electronic problems. That's what you try first. If that doesn't work, I say it's time to see a mechanic then, because you're going to have to go through the whole system and see what the heck is short now. Could be a bad computer. Dustin Black Eye says, I replaced my rear differential gasket twice, the one that goes behind the differential cover. It's still leaking. Any idea where it's leaking? Okay, well, the thing is, there's 2 places that it can generally leak. Either it's the rear seal there, or it's the front seal. So, what you want to do is buy yourself some UV leak dye. Doesn't cost much. You can get a kit with yellow sunglasses, little UV light, and some dye. You put maybe a tablespoon of oil in the differential, drive it around. Then with the UV light and yellow sunglasses, you can see where the leak's coming from because it follows gravity down. So if you see that's coming from the front and going down, that means that your front seal is gone. And depending on what type of differential you have, if it's not a solid axle like in a Ford F-150 truck, but it's a differential and then it's got CV joints, then the seals on the outside, on each left and right side, they could be leaking too. See where it's coming from. It could definitely be something else. Now, if it isn't, it's still leaking off the back seal, forget the gaskets. Get some of this The Right Stuff by Permatex. It's a gasket making material. Put the gasket making material, put it back on with no gasket, it won't leak then because that will seal any microfractures. It's a silicone based sealant, it will seal anything. Cougar says, my dad's got an 05 Malibu 2.2 and has no compression on cylinder number 4. It currently has 50,000 miles on it. What could happen to make it go out? You say it's an 05 and you only bought it for $700. One, I doubt that that's the real mileage. Guys that flip cars, they'll go to a junkyard, get a used dash, or they'll rig it up to give fake mileage on the dash. I wouldn't believe that's the real mileage. And since you bought it for $700, what do you think you're going to get? A pile of junk, right? They do wear out on those stupid little 4-cylinder engines. The 2.2s blow all the time. They normally last a lot more than 50,000 miles. Who knows if the oil was ever changed? Who knows what the real mileage it is? And I mean, you didn't pay that much for it. The engine shot. Do you want to put a bunch of money into it? It's an 05, so it's what? 17 years old. It's not worth much. My advice would be if you can find an engine that they guarantee runs in a junkyard, put a used engine in it and then sell it. See if you can get anything for it. I wouldn't take it apart, try to fix it. You get into a rat's nest, costs you more money than it's worth. But since they're not worth anything, a used engine doesn't go for all that much. You put a used engine in a stupid thing and then get rid of it. You buy a Malibu for $700. I can just about guarantee you bought yourself a pile of crap. Don't ever believe the mileage readings on something like that. They're easily faked, or the dash just replaced with one from a junkyard that had lower mileage on it. Coda says, I got a 2011 Honda Accord. There's oil around the alternator. Why would there be oil around the alternator? There's an oil leak somewhere. The alternator doesn't have oil in it, right? On the alternators here, generally it's an easy fix. And you do say you have a 4-cylinder. The V6 is really a pain, but the 4s, just take the valve cover off, replace the valve cover gasket. Just put on a video replacing valve cover gasket. Scotty, watch that on YouTube. You'll see it's not that hard to do. You can buy them in any auto parts store, clean all the old crap off, put the new one, get it nice and tight. They'll leak on the top and it'll drip down the alternator. You want to fix it because oil and electricity do not go together, and it will short your alternator out over time. So fix it sooner than later. Now, the only other thing that it could be is if you have a power steering pump, but it doesn't have electronic power steering. It could be a leaking power steering pump or a hose. Check that too. If you're losing power steering fluid, you'd have to fix that because it's oil too, and it will ruin the alternator, and they cost a lot of money. And of course, you get enough oil, you get it on the belt, then the belt will slip and break. You'll be stranded somewhere. So find it out and fix it. Normally, it's just going to be your valve cover gasket. It's a job you could easily do yourself. Not that expensive. If you do it yourself, it costs you maybe $25 for the gasket kit. Anybody could do it in an hour, hour and a half. It's not that big of a job. Using normal hand tools. Toyota just announced recently that they're struggling with chips and they're going to have to shut another factory down in Japan for a while. Assume that they're going to lose production of 14,000 vehicles in this one factory. At least for us, it's a Noah and Voxy minivans that they don't sell over here in the United States. And if you've been following it, Ford has removed some of the non-safety items like air conditioning and seat stuff, and they said, well, when they get the chips, they'll retrofit your vehicle so you'll get that. And General Motors, some of theirs without that stop-start system. Well, I'd like that because then I would never take it in to have it fixed. I would just leave it without the stop-start system, let the engine last longer. The chips are still in shortage and they're creating problems. Make something go into their minds to say, maybe we shouldn't have them dependent on all these chips. Maybe we don't need all this crap in our cars. We're just going from here to there, right? Do we really need all that crap? Well, with the price of gasoline high, people are now stealing it. In North Carolina, 400 gallons of gasoline were stolen by these guys coming when they were closed at night, bypassing the system, and just cars were coming. They were filling them up with gas. Mr. Patel owned this gas station, and he said he lost that kind of money. I guess the surveillance cameras that came back showed it. He says now he's going to shut all the power off at night when he shuts the place down. Well, really, he should have done that in the first place. When I used to close down and start up my father's Corner Texaco gas station. This was in the late 1960s. You know what we did at night? We shut all the power off. You don't want to fire the gasoline there, right? We shut all the power off. The big mercury vapor lamps, the power to the pumps, everything was shut off. This guy was an idiot not shutting the power off. Teach him a lesson, not being dumb. Some of this is just plain stupidity on the owner's part. Now, this was done in 45 minutes. These people just figured out how to bypass the system. Since there was electricity electricity to the pump. It just pumped it all, and they filled a bunch of cars and left. Mr. Patel says he lost about $1,600 worth of gas. Be dumb enough to leave the power on their systems when they're not there. Back in the day, people even put locks on the pumps so you couldn't get the nozzles off of them. I guess people are just getting lazy and they don't want to do the work that they used to do. Now he's turning the power off. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.